Chaos and unrest in Pakistan after former Prime Minister Imran Khan was arrested in a corruption case on Tuesday. Thousands have taken to the streets in protest. Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf has instructed party leaders, workers and supporters to gather in Islamabad at the Islamabad Judicial Complex. Khan was arrested in the Qadr Trust case. It relates to land worth $530 million allotted to Al-Qadr Trust. This is one of more than 100 cases that have been registered against Imran Khan. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has said that any escalation by armed groups in Gaza will be met with a crushing response. This hours after a barrage of airstrikes hit Gaza on Tuesday. 3 commanders of armed groups and 12 civilians were killed, including children. Netanyahu added that he had instructed security forces to prepare for any scenario. He spoke to the press after holding a security cabinet meeting in Tel Aviv. Violence between Israel and Palestine has escalated tensions in West Bank and Jerusalem, along with firing. More than 100 Palestinians and at least 19 Israelis and foreigners have been killed in the violence since January. US President Joe Biden and top lawmakers, including House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy, held talks at the Oval Office, but they failed to come to a common ground on the deadlock over the debt ceiling. Both Biden and McCarthy showed no signs of softening their positions as a debt default for the United States looms as early as the 1st of June. After the meeting, Republican House of Representatives Speaker Kevin McCarthy told reporters that he does not see any new movement and worries that the United States is inching closer to a debt default. On the other hand, US President Joe Biden called the talks productive and reiterated that default is not an option. China has warned the European Union against imposing sanctions on their companies in Russia. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang said that China would take actions to protect its interests too. Referring to the discussions within the EU over possible restrictions against 8 Chinese companies, the foreign minister added that to protect the legitimate interests of Chinese companies, Beijing will retaliate with necessary action. An AFP journalist was killed in eastern Ukraine due to rocket fire. Arman Asoldin was a 32-year-old video journalist on duty when he was killed. The attack happened in the town of Chasivya, located close to Bakhmut. That's the epicenter of the fighting in eastern Ukraine. It has been for several months. He was with 4 colleagues accompanied by Ukrainian soldiers. A Ukrainian unit commander reported that a Ukrainian howitzer battery fired shells on Russian mortar positions near Avdiivka in the Donetsk region. The howitzers were delivered by the Czech Republic to the Ukrainian military in 2022. Speaking about the fighting, the unit commander said that after 3 to 4 fired shells, Russian forces would answer with their own fire. Russia has stepped up its attacks in anticipation of a Ukrainian counteroffensive after Moscow's winter campaign. The Pentagon has announced that the United States will be providing Ukraine with an additional $1.2 billion worth of long-term military aid. The aid package will be provided under the Ukraine Security Assistance Initiative. The Pentagon said that it will fund air defense munitions and drones for air defense and provide equipment to help modify Western air defense launchers, missiles and radars so that they can be used with Ukraine systems. British Foreign Minister James Cleverly stated that the US and UK have strategic endurance to support Ukraine in the war against Russia until its successful conclusion. Joining US Secretary of State Antony Blinken during a news briefing in Washington, they also touched upon urgent need to extend the Black Sea Green Initiative, which was brokered by the UN and Turkey. During the visit, the British Foreign Minister will hold talks with Blinken before meeting members of Congress today and will stress the importance of continued unity to ensure Ukraine wins the war. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte is on a 3-day visit to Brazil, and he stated that the Netherlands will support Ukraine as long as necessary after a meeting with Brazil's president. The Brazilian president has been advocating for the creation of a group of nations not involved in war that can broker peace talks to end the conflict. The Brazilian leader insisted the peace talks were needed to stop the fighting, noting that Brazil voted for the United Nations resolution condemning the Russian invasion. Lawmakers in Ecuador's National Assembly have voted to go through an impeachment trial against President Guillermo Lasso over embezzlement accusations, potentially moving the process towards its final stage. However, Lasso continues to deny accusations that he turned a blind eye to alleged embezzlement related to a contract with the state-owned oil transportation company. He argues that his administration has only made profitable changes to the deal, which was signed years before he took office. U.S. federal prosecutors have filed criminal charges against Republican U.S. Congressman George Santos, who has admitted to lying about his resume but refuses to step down. Charges have been filed under seal in New York's Eastern District Federal Court, and Santos is expected to appear in court soon. In March, the U.S. House of Representatives Ethics Committee launched a probe looking at a variety of concerns. This includes whether Santos engaged in illegal activity over his 2022 campaign, failed to properly disclose information required on his house statements, and violated federal laws concerning his role in a financial firm. A New York jury found Donald Trump liable for sexually abusing and defaming a former magazine columnist and ordered the ex-president to pay her $5 million in damages. The 9 jurors rejected E. Jean Carroll's accusation of rape but upheld her other complaints in the closely watched civil trial. It marks the first time Trump has faced legal consequences over a string of sexual assault allegations dating back decades. The former U.S. president immediately rejected the verdict as disgrace and stated that he had absolutely no idea who the woman is. The Kenyan Interior Minister has described the starvation death cult victims of highly organized crime. Leader of the death cult, Paul Mackenzie, is in custody accused of ordering followers to starve their children and themselves so that they could go to heaven before the end of the world. So far, more than 100 bodies have been exhumed from shallow graves, and search is underway as authorities warn the toll could rise further, with more than 400 people missing in the surrounding area. A Tunisian naval guard shot and killed a colleague and 2 civilians as he tried to enter a synagogue on the island of Howitzers during an annual Jewish pilgrimage. Tunisia's Interior Ministry said that the attacker was slain by security guards and 10 people were injured. It was not immediately clear if they were pilgrims attending ceremonies near the 2,500-year-old synagogue. The injured include 6 security agents and 4 civilians. According to the ministry, the assailant first killed a colleague with his service weapon and then seized ammunition and headed towards the synagogue. That's Africa's oldest synagogue. The President of the United Nations General Assembly has urged countries world over to be better prepared if another pandemic were to strike. He called for addressing the serious shortcomings in national, regional and global efforts to prevent another pandemic from taking a similar toll. Director General of the WHO also stated that the UN member states are negotiating a new pandemic accord. The new pandemic accord will be a generational commitment to move forward with a shared commitment to meet shared threats with a shared response. Three people in the United States got a new lease of life. They narrowly escaped from their vehicle before it was struck by a train at a railroad crossing in Texas. A video posted on social media shows this narrow escape and how railroad crossing gates stopped atop their SUV as the train approached. A car smashed into a restaurant's patio and then drove away. The incident took place in Ohio's Loveland. The entire incident was caught on security cameras. The driver has since surrendered. The county court set his bond at $250,000 and charged him. Hundreds of workers in Haiti marched to demand an increase in minimum wage before being dispersed by the police. Police dispersed the protesters by firing tear gas as men and women ran in all directions. The clashes occurred as hundreds of workers from different trade unions marched through the streets of Port-au-Prince to demand a minimum of $17 in wages a day. Lebanese protesters set off fireworks and burned tires outside banks in downtown Beirut. This was in protest against an economic meltdown that has plunged most of the population into poverty. A few dozen protesters began demonstrating outside the parliament before marching on Bank Audi, which is one of Lebanon's largest such institutions, accompanied by soldiers in riot gear. The protesters marched through some of Beirut's most lavish pastel wall streets towards their billionaire Prime Minister McCarthy's residence. In the northern region of Catalonia, Spain, farmers staged a tractor go-slow protest, demanding government's help to deal with the problem of drought. This comes a day after Spain's National Weather Agency reported April as the driest and warmest month since 1961. The farming union is pressing authorities to provide subsidies, tax, labor, and conduct emergency improvements for proper supply of water to the farmers. Iraq's rising temperatures and frequent dust storms have adversely affected the environment for bees to produce honey. This has drastically lowered the production and also the quality of honey produced in the country. With the changing climate conditions, some local beekeepers are worried about the production, while some have already given up. The United Nations last year stated Iraq is the fifth most vulnerable country affected by climate change. To commemorate 50 years since the death of Pablo Picasso, an exhibition titled Picasso, Sculptor, Matter and Body will be the first major exhibition in Spain showcasing Picasso's sculptures. The exhibition will be a selection of sculptures spanning nearly 60 years of Picasso's career and 61 produced by the artist between around 1964. The exhibition will run until September 2023. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.